Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Welcome back to Old Man Rambles. Today, I want to talk about, um, to start off, I want to talk with the film The Incredibles, which came out about 20 years ago. In the image behind me, you will see a confrontation between Robert Parr and his boss, Mr. Huff. In the beginning of the film, Bob Parr works for an insurance company named InsureCare. Bob is called into a meeting with his boss, Mr. Huff. His boss is angry with Bob. The reason being that Bob's clients seem to know how to get their way through every obstacle that the company has put in their path to deny their insurance claims. He rants that your customers are experts. They find their way through every dodge, loophole, and obstacle we put in their path. When Bob asks to have my clients complained, he grinningly says, "Complaints I can handle." He's happy to field complaints. Bob then asks, "Have I done anything illegal?" His boss replies, "No." When Bob asks, "Are you saying we shouldn't help our customers?" Mr. Huff says through gritted teeth, "The law requires that I answer no." And when Bob says, "I thought we were supposed to help people," his boss response is, "We're supposed to help our people, starting with our stockholders. Who's helping them?" The scene culminates with Bob wanting to leave the interview to help someone who's being mugged in the alley. His boss threatens him with losing his job if he leaves. When the mugger gets away, Mr. Huff gleefully says, "Let's hope we don't cover him." Bob Parr then picks him up and hurls him through 4 walls of the office building, 8 solid pieces of sheetrock, to which he slams into a locker. This is played for comedy. Bob Parr launching a CEO through several walls. And in the end, we don't really feel sorry for Mr. Huff. We're not supposed to. He's slime. He knows his company profits off the suffering of other people. He's glad that it happens. He has no concern for his customers. His only concern is profit, making the stockholders happy, and making sure the company makes as much money as humanly possible, and denying their customers' insurance claims as often as humanly possible. Now, if you've been paying attention to the news for last week, you're probably aware of why I'm bringing this up. And if you aren't aware, about a week ago, depending on I know when this goes up, but when this goes out, it will have been about a week that the CEO of United Healthcare was shot down in the streets of New York by a man who clearly was waiting for him, stalked him, knew where he would be. And people across the country have been cheering. To quote Mark Twain, "I have never yet wished a man dead, but I have read some obituaries with pleasure." The people who United Healthcare leads the country in denied claims. It's a health insurance company. They've denied claims for people people with multiple sclerosis needing wheelchairs. They've denied paying for chemo for people with cancer. They are arguably one of the worst health insurance companies in the country as far as, actually providing services for their customers. They deny at least a third of the claims filed into their company. And these people profit off the misery, suffering, and death of other people. They say it's just business. There's nothing personal in it. There may not be anything personal in it, but that may be part of the problem. They don't think of their customers as people. They think of their customers as a source of revenue. The fact that they may be suffering and in pain and misery, and their families may be suffering, from anxiety and depression and worry and care, and financially suffering because their claims have been denied. that means nothing to them. It's just good business to not pay out insurance claims. And I've had to deal with insurance. In my entire life, I've only had one positive interaction with an insurance company. The rest of the time, it's just painful. I got kicked off my wife's insurance. We had a family policy with her company for years because they had a better policy than where I worked. And a couple of years ago, her company decided, well, if your spouse can get insurance through their own employer, we won't provide insurance for them. You can't have them on your policy anymore if they can get it somewhere else. And I was kicked off her policy, and I am forced to get my health insurance through my own company, which is not a bad company, but it's not as good. I mean, I'm fortunate that I haven't had anything serious go wrong, so I don't know how bad it could be, but I had to have 3 rounds of blood work done a year ago, and it cost me a week's pay. This is just ridiculous, that before my insurance, it's considered non-essential, that my insurance company considered non-essential, so they'd only pay like 20% of the cost for 3 separate, blood tests. So health insurance in this company sucks big time. I mean, my heart goes out to his family. The comments I've seen from his wife show that she's completely oblivious, but that doesn't mean she's complicit necessarily in her husband's, I'm going to call it malfeasance, because that's the only way I can describe it. And he has children. And as someone who lost a parent when they were young, my mother died in a car accident when I was 16, I would not wish that pain and misery on anyone. Unless you've lived through it, it's not something you can adequately describe. It is crushing in a way that, again, I can't describe. My heart goes out to his family. It truly does. But the man himself and the men like him, no, I have no sympathy for them. They sit there in their desks and their suits and count their cash while people grind out their lives and suffer. I'm not cheering this man's demise, but I do take a little schadenfreude from it. I can't help but think, on a certain level, he got what so many people in his position deserve. Maybe not necessarily death, but certainly a reckoning of some kind. This is, the way corporate America treats the rest of us, the people who are not millionaires, the people who are not managers and directors and CEOs. They treat us as though we mean nothing. And I can't mourn for this man. As much as my heart will go out to his family, I cannot mourn his passing. Because, and it didn't help anything. It didn't make anything better. Because the people who work with him, they just put out they immediately, within 48 hours, they had put out this position. They posted his position as open. They barely had time. They barely let his body cool down before they were looking for a replacement. They're as heartless towards his death and his family suffering as they are to the suffering of everyone else. They cared nothing for him. Yeah, they've come out and say, hey, he was a great man and something. But it's like, no, you don't care about him. They're just doing that for their public image. And because people are cheering for the death of one of their own. It's the only reason they're doing that. Oh, and another thing before I finish. People are shot in New York every day. I'm not sure if it was the same day or not, but, a couple of teenagers were stabbed by a group. A group of young men came upon a couple of teenagers, asked them if they spoke English, and when they said no, they proceeded to stab the two of them. One of them died of his wounds. That's not making national news for some reason. The death of a CEO is making national news. There was a massive manhunt, a reward offered. Why is that? It's because he's rich. He's a rich white guy. And so because a rich white guy died, these people aren't supposed to die. No, no, no. These people should be safe and protected. Not like the rest of us. The rest of us are scum. We don't deserve it. It reminds me of that line from Batman the Dark Knight, when the Joker is talking to Arthur Dent. And he's like, people don't react when things go according to plan. If I announce that tomorrow a group of soldiers are going to be killed or a group of gangbangers are going to die, no one bats an eye because it's all part of the plan. But when I announce that one little old mayor is going to die, everyone loses their minds. And that's it. The plan is we're supposed to die. They're supposed to be safe. That's the plan. That's why there's this whole media frenzy over the shooting of this one person. Not because there's anything unusual about it, but because he's a rich white guy. And rich white guys are supposed to be safe and protected. And the rest of us can all go screw ourselves. The rest of us don't matter. I've ranted enough. I'd be interested in your thoughts on this. Good hunting.